What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Overboy and I'm going to be doing my review for the 2016 movie X-Men Apocalypse. So, in this movie, the X-Men have to face off against the ancient mutant Apocalypse, who was revived in Egypt in 1983, and Professor Xavier and Beast, along with some new younger X-Men of Cyclops, Jean Grey, and along with many other new X-Men characters are in this movie. And they're going up against Apocalypse, and who has also gotten Storm and Cyclops and Magneto on his side. So they're having to go against them and try to stop Apocalypse from ending the world. So this movie is, it's okay. I don't think it's terrible. There are way worse movies in the X-Men franchise. Personally, I think that X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men The Last Stand are both definitely worse than this one. But this one is kind of just bland. It's not very memorable. And compared to Days of Future Past, it is kind of a step down. But I still think it's an okay movie. I like the new cast. Ty Sheridan as Cyclops is pretty decent, although he doesn't really have a lot to do in here. And I did really like Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. She's actually one of the casting that I did really like in this movie. I know a lot of people didn't really care for her in this one or Dark Phoenix, but I actually did like her in these movies. I think she was pretty good as Jean Grey. I did kind of feel like James McAvoy was kind of iffy in this one. He wasn't as good as he was in the last two movies and everything. He kind of phoned it in a little bit. Not too bad, but... And maybe it's just that Professor X just didn't have a lot to do in this movie. It didn't seem to know what it was wanting to focus on like who the main character was and stuff. And he wasn't as big of a part in this one as he was in the previous two. But I think he was fine. And everything. I love that we finally get to see him with his bald head, though. I think he looks awesome as Charles Xavier with the bald head. I think he looks pretty cool. And then you got, once again, the highlight of this movie, like with the other X-Men movies, I love Michael Fassbender as Magneto. He's just absolutely excellent in this movie, and he gives one of his best performances as the character. He's great in all of the ones he was in. He's always been highlighted in all of these, even the ones that are weaker and everything. And he's really the main reason I like watching this movie, especially that scene when his daughter dies and he does the thing where he makes the little necklace thing go through all of the guys' necks and stuff. I love that scene and everything. Just really great acting from Michael Fassbender, who's a very underrated actor. And he's really great as Magneto. And this movie was no exception. He was really excellent in here and stole the show. I will say Jennifer Lawrence was not very good as Mystique in this one. You could tell she's kind of over the character, overplaying this character, and she doesn't really like being her and everything. She was fine for the last two movies, but I never really bought into her as Mystique anyway. After she really became famous with Hunger Games and stuff, she didn't seem to be fitting for Mystique and everything. Yeah, I didn't think she was all that great in this movie. And Oscar Isaac, I think he was okay as Apocalypse. I know a lot of people hated it, love to hate on him for that movie, and for this movie, and I don't think that that's really fair. I don't really blame him. He's not really the reason why it didn't work. Apocalypse just was not very well written in this movie, and from what I understand, they really changed him from the source material and stuff, and he's supposed to be like this giant being and stuff, and they totally kind of run that. But I think he was fine. I think he's a pretty generic villain, though. Up there with some of the more early MCU generic villains that aren't memorable and stuff. Nothing special about him, anyway. I will say the special effects were pretty good. They had some pretty good moments in here with, or not the special effects, but the action. I mean, it was pretty good. I wouldn't say special effects because there's some bad CGI, which I'll get to in a minute. But the action is pretty good in here. And I did enjoy the story overall. The ending was kind of lackluster. It kind of ranks up there with one of the weaker endings of the X-Men franchise, which some of these movies did have pretty weak endings, and some of them are really memorable, some of them aren't. This one is one of the ones that's not very memorable. But all in all, I think that this is an alright movie, and Hugh Jackman has a really cool little cameo as Wolverine. He doesn't even talk in this one, I don't think. He makes his grunting noises when he's going beast mode and stuff, but he doesn't really talk or anything. I like him, though, in the very little bit we get to see him in. It was cool getting to see him. This is one of the last times we'll see him as Wolverine. And like I said, when it comes to special effects, so the CGI in this is god awful. It has some of the worst CGI in superhero movies in recent years. It looked really bad. Like the CGI in the first X-Men from 22 years ago holds up better than this movie that just came out 6 years ago. It's crazy. But all in all, I think X-Men Apocalypse is a fun movie. I enjoyed the 80s setting, and I love like the little scene when they go into the theater to see Return of the Jedi, and they come out and they're like, I guess we can all agree the third one's always the worst, or something like that. And it's kind of also taking shots at X-Men The Last Stand, or at least that's the way I saw it. Although I know a lot of people say that it applied to this movie itself, since it's the third movie of the prequel series, but I think this movie is not near as bad as people say it is. It's not a super great movie. It's definitely not one of the best X-Men movies, but it's definitely not a god-awful movie that's unwatchable like a lot of people are saying it is. I don't think any of the X-Men movies are that awful, and they have some that are pretty bad, but this one is definitely not one that is even a terrible movie. It just is one of the weaker ones. It's just very mediocre and everything. I will also say I love how it pushed the PG-13 rating. There's a lot of scenes that have pretty cool blood. The scene with Wolverine, which they do a lot of cutaways, but you kind of see the aftermath, which I think still kind of pushes the PG-13 rating. It looks pretty cool. Kind of gave us a little bit of a surprise of what we could see with Logan and everything. I thought that was kind of cool. And then the scene when Magneto uses that necklace, like I said, you get to see blood shooting out of their necks when it's going through their necks and everything. I thought that was pretty cool looking, and everything. So like I said, it had some good moments, but it also has a big pacing issue. The movie is very slow and everything, but it's fine for what it is. It's one I don't mind watching if I'm watching the franchise. It's not one I'd go out of my way to watch just by itself, but as part of the franchise, it's fun watching every now and then. So I'd say I'd give X-Men Apocalypse a 7 out of 10. It's enjoyable, not the best movie in the franchise, but it's fine for what it is. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of this movie, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.